Welcome to this edition of What the Block, and today I'm going to talk about webDocument block. Now, the webDocument block is a type of block that you don't need to have more than one in your application. So typically it would go into project data flow so that all your pages can reference any values from it. So I'm going to show it in the context of project data flow. I'm going to search for web. It's right here in the browser API section. And it has quite a few properties. Most of them are very self-explanatory, and I don't need to go over them. They mostly provide information about client's system, so that you can create logic based on the client's settings and his browser and his resolution and so on. But there are a few that really definitely deserve some extra attention. One of them is title. This is a way to control browser tab title. So whatever I put in here, right, and of course save project data flow, is going to show up. Open viewer link and get out of the full screen mode here, right? So it's showing up in here in this tab title, right? So this is how you would set that to be custom instead of the default DGLogik 5. Next element that is worth showing, let's get back to project data flow, is search. This will return you query parameters and also allow you to set them as well. And actually for that, we need to get out of the full screen mode again to see our URL bar. So you can see right now we're in design mode. Design mode by default takes some query parameters. So the project name, for example, and then page name. If you're looking at the page, you see them here under search, right? But you can add more URL parameters, query parameters here, and then you can set them and read them via this search bar, right? So that you can actually keep track of some runtime variables or other elements, or create some initial settings controlled by query parameters in your URL. So search property of a web document block is what you use to read and write data to the query parameters. Okay. So next element that's definitely deserves some more attention is this feedback. Is mobile and has touch. These two properties are read-only, of course. You can use those values in your logic, in your application, to do something differently based on whether client is looking at your application via mobile interface or not, and whether he has touch capabilities or not. So that's very useful for creating dynamically responsive applications. All right, next property that you'll find useful is initial scale. This is applicable to mobile interface. So you can set here the application scale when it's viewed on a mobile screen. By default, it's likely will be too small because it's going to use full resolution of the mobile device, as it would on the computer screen, making most of your components way too small to interact with a finger. So scale here is where you can set the scale to be larger, for example, 2, 2.5, 3, to control how big the application appears on a mobile screen. And yes, it just takes a number, and it can be decimal. So you can do 0.5 to be smaller, or 1.5 or 2 and so on to be larger and on. Finally, the last property I want to mention here is prevent backspace. So this is a very useful property to just enable right away. What it does, it prevents the common browser feature of basically returning to previous URL when user presses backspace twice. Right? It's a common feature of many browsers, and if you don't want the user to leave your application when he double taps the backspace, which can happen when you're typing something into the form, or during another time when you're interacting with a page, so this should be enabled, because this can be especially disruptive when you're designing something and you, while building the application, accidentally double tap the backspace and lose whatever you haven't saved yet, and then have to go to recovery and deal with that. So this will have effect in design mode as well as the viewer mode, and I suggest you just switch it on right away. And that's all I wanted to say about web document block. I'll see you next time talking about another block.